Good morning, everyone. Welcome again on the official YouTube channel of Officers at 24/7. My name is Amanjot and I am here with all of you to discuss the another session on the Indian economy and Indian financial system. So let's just start the session. Before starting the session, if you have not downloaded the 24/7 application yet, then do download the application and press the bell icon so that all the upcoming sessions notification will be given to you on the Officers at 24/7 channel. Okay. So let's just start. In today's session, we are going to talk about the types of bank, like what are the different types of banks are there. So first of all, when we have talked about the financial institution in our country, we have discussed there are two types of financial institution, that is banking institution and the another one is non-banking financial institution. These two institutions we have talked about, that is there in the Indian economy. Okay, that is banking institution and non-banking financial institution. So today we are going to talk about the banking institution of our country. Okay, let's continue. So first of all, when it comes to the banking institution, the first type of banking institution, first of all, it comes RBI. When we start talking about banking institution, the first bank which comes in here, that is RBI. Okay, the banking institution here is RBI. And then RBI has divided the banking institution into two categories, that is known as scheduled bank and non-scheduled bank. The first category of bank is scheduled bank and the another category of bank is non-scheduled bank. Scheduled bank and non-scheduled bank. So these are the two categories which has been introduced by RBI. The scheduled banks are those banks which have defined under the second schedule of RBI Act 1934. Non-scheduled banks are those banks which are not defined under the second schedule of RBI Act 1934. These are the scheduled and non-scheduled bank. Now the scheduled bank has further divided into three categories, that is known as your commercial bank. The second one is non-commercial bank. And the third is foreign bank. Commercial bank, non-commercial bank and foreign bank. These are the three type of scheduled banks. If I talk about non-scheduled bank, there is only one type of bank, that is known as local area bank. Only local area bank is there, which is non-scheduled bank right now. Okay. So first of all, RBI has divided the banks of our country into two categories, that is scheduled bank and another one is non-scheduled bank. Scheduled banks are the banks which are defined under the second schedule of RBI Act 1934. Non-scheduled bank which are not defined under the second schedule of RBI Act 1934. So in scheduled bank, we have categorized into three categories, that is commercial bank, non-commercial bank and cooperative bank. Commercial banks are the banks which works main for profit motive and they perform all the banking activities like deposit, withdrawal, lending, check clearance, demand draft, locker facility, etc. All the banking services will be provided by commercial bank, but they work for the profit motive. Then we have a non-commercial bank. Non-commercial banks are the banks which works for the development of the country. They do not work for the profit. They don't earn profit. They work for the development of the economy and they provide loan to develop a particular sector of the country, like the NABARD. NABARD is providing loan for the agriculture and rural areas. SIDBI is providing loan for the small industries. NHB is providing loan for the housing sector. So all the non-commercial banks are the banks which are providing loan for the particular sectors development in the country. Okay, now what are foreign banks? Foreign banks are those banks whose headquarter is in foreign but their branches are in India. That is known as foreign bank. Okay, one second. There will be a cooperative bank, not the foreign bank. One second. This should be a cooperative bank. I have written it wrong. It is a cooperative bank. Okay. So cooperative banks are those banks which work for the agriculture sector. So cooperative banks was introduced to develop the agriculture sector. They provide loan to the agriculture sector here. So these are the three scheduled banks. Now local area banks are those banks which is not defined under the second schedule of RBI Act 1934. Now there is a condition or there is a criteria for the corporate non-scheduled banks or the scheduled banks to come under the RBI Act 1934 Schedule 2. So there are two conditions. If a bank follow these two conditions, they can be come under the second schedule of RBI. The first condition is that the bank should have a minimum paid up capital of 5 lakh. And the second important condition is that the bank has to maintain a reserve ratio. Reserve ratio means CRR and SLR. If a bank have a minimum capital of 5 lakh and the bank will be maintaining the CRR SLR, now that bank will be come under the second schedule of RBI Act. Otherwise, the bank will not come under that. So that's why local area banks, they do not have the paid capital, minimum paid capital of 5 lakh, and they do not maintain the CRR and SLR. That's why they are not a part of your Schedule 2 of RBI Act 1934. Okay. So this is the broadly divided banks in India by RBI. Now the commercial bank has been further divided into three categories. Now the commercial banks are divided into three categories. First we have public sector bank, then we have private sector bank, and third we have foreign bank. Public sector, private sector, and foreign bank, these are the three banks in our country. Okay. Public sector banks are those banks in which the maximum shareholding is with the government of India. It means when the 51% and more than 51% shares are with the government of India, that is known as public sector bank. Private sector banks are those banks in which 51% shares or more than 51% shares are with the individual person, are with the private ownership. Foreign banks are those banks whose headquarters is in foreign and they are only branches in India, that is known as foreign bank. For example of the public sector bank, the SBI, PNB, Bank of India, Bank of Baroda, Bank of Maharashtra, all these banks are public sector banks. Private sector banks example, we have Axis Bank, ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank, Kotak Mahindra Bank, Bandhan Bank, all these are the private sector banks. Then foreign banks, we have Citibank, we have Hong Kong and Shanghai Banking Corporation, we have Standard and Chartered Bank, we have JP Morgan Bank, we have Dutch Bank. These all banks are foreign bank. All of their headquarters is in foreign and only branches are there in India. Okay. Now the public sector bank is divided into further two categories, that is State Bank of India and Nationalized Bank. SBI and Nationalized Bank, these two categories are there. First of all, if I talk about the nationalized banks are those banks which used to be the private bank. So the nationalized banks are used to be the private bank and government of India purchased their 51% shares or more than 51% shares. After that, they become the nationalized bank. So nationalized banks used to be the private banks. Their share has been purchased by the government of India 51% and more than 51%. Then these banks become the nationalized bank. Okay, so SBI and nationalized banks are the two categories of public sector bank. Now the cooperative banks also have a types. So the cooperative bank further divided into three categories. Cooperative banks further divided into three categories, that is known as primary credit society, PCS. Then we have a district central, cooperative bank, DCCB. Then we have a state cooperative bank. Good morning, Janki. And that is SCB. So these are the three cooperative banks, right? And these all the cooperative banks are working for the agriculture sector's development. The primary credit societies provide loan for the villages for the agriculture sector. So they work for the villages. Okay, primary credit societies are working in villages and they are providing short-term loan for the short period of time to the agriculture sector. Then there is a district central cooperative bank that works in the districts. They provide medium and long-term loan to the agriculture sector. Then we have a state cooperative bank. So state cooperative banks do not deal with the public. They provide the loans to the primary aid society and district central banks. They supervise them, they guide them that how we will be capable or how we can be able to develop the agriculture sector in a particular state. So the state cooperative bank are also known as your apex bank, and they are mainly situated in the state's capital. In a state's capital, we find the apex bank, that is the state cooperative bank, and the apex bank of that particular state controls or regulates or supervise the primary credit society and district central cooperative banks of that particular state. Okay, that's what the state cooperative bank or apex bank is doing. Clear? Apart from that, we have other commercial banks also. We have other commercial banks also. First, we have RRBs, that is Regional Rural Bank. Then we have payment banks. Then we have a small finance bank. So these are also commercial bank, but we are not defined that with the public sector bank, private sector bank, and foreign bank, because these banks was introduced for the different purpose. For the different purpose, for the different category, the bank has been introduced. That's why we have not discuss these with the other commercial bank. So first we have RRB. RRB stands for Regional Rural Banks. Okay, RRB stands for what? Regional Rural Banks. Now, what is Regional Rural Bank? Regional Rural Banks are the banks which has been introduced for the upliftment of rural economy. For the upliftment of rural economy, we have developed the regional rural banks in the country. Now, the payment bank and small finance bank has been introduced for the development of your financial inclusion. So payment bank and a small finance bank was introduced for the development of your financial inclusion. Now, what is financial inclusion? Financial inclusion simply means that to link each and every person with the financial product and services at an affordable cost. That is known as financial inclusion. So financial inclusion is simply a process in which we are trying to link every person with the financial product and services at an affordable cost. That is known as your financial inclusion. Okay. So the payment bank and small finance bank has been introduced for the financial inclusion mainly, and the RRB was introduced for the upliftment of the rural economy. That's why we have not defined them with the public sector, private sector, and foreign bank, because they are the banks which has been defined or categorized as per the function, and public sector, private sector banks are the banks who has been described on the purpose of the ownership. Okay. So in the last class, we have discussed that banks will be divided on the basis of their function, on the basis of their ownership basis, function basis, and the third one on the basis of schedule. So on the basis of function, we have so many banks. We have commercial banks. We have commercial banks. We have non-commercial banks. Non-commercial banks. We have RRBs. We have cooperative banks. We have small finance bank, payment banks. All these banks are the banks which are divided as per their functions. Now, ownership banks are the banks which shows the ownership of a bank, which bank's ownership is with which of the following. So, first of all, public sector bank and private sector banks are the banks which has been defined as per the ownership. And on the basis of schedule, we have a schedule bank and a non-schedule bank. These are the banks which are on the basis of schedule has been divided. Okay. So first of all, if I talk about the banking system in our country, these are the all types of banks which are available in India. So first of all, we have discussed here. The first of all, we have discussed that in banking system of India, so first of all, we have RBI, that is the central bank of our country. What is RBI? RBI is the central bank of our country. So RBI divided the banks into two categories, that is scheduled bank and non-scheduled bank. So scheduled banks are the banks which are defined under second schedule of RBI Act 1934, and non-scheduled banks are those banks which are not divided or which are not uh, under the second schedule of RBI Act 1934. Now, the scheduled bank has been divided into three categories: commercial bank, non-commercial bank, and cooperative bank. Commercial banks are the banks which works for the profit motive. They provide all the banking services to the customer. Non-commercial banks are the banks which has been introduced for the development of a particular sector. They do not deal with the public and they do not work on the profit motive. They work on the development of the country. Then cooperative banks are the banks which are working for the agriculture sector's development, that is cooperative bank. Now, the commercial bank further divided into three categories: public sector, private sector, foreign bank. So public sector banks are those banks in which 51% shares or more than shares remains with Government of India. Private sector banks are those banks in which 51% shares or more than 51% shares remains with some individual person. And foreign banks are the banks in which the headquarter will be in the foreign country, but the branches of the bank will be in India. That is known as your foreign bank. Now, the public sector banks is further divided into two categories. First is SBI, State Bank of India, the largest public sector bank of our country. And the second one is Nationalized Bank. So, nationalized banks are those banks which used to be private, but Government of India has purchased the 51% shares or more than 51% shares of that particular bank. Then after that, that bank becomes the nationalized bank. So these used to be the private sector bank. Now they have become the public sector bank, that is known as nationalized bank. Okay, next. Then we have a cooperative bank. Cooperative banks mainly working for the agriculture sector development. So primary care societies provide loan, medium-term loan to the agriculture in the villages. District central cooperative banks provide medium-term and long-term loan to the farmers in the agriculture sector. Then at the district level, then there is a state cooperative bank. They do not deal with the public, they deal with the primary care society and district central cooperative bank of that particular state. So the state cooperative banks are actually supervising and monitoring the cooperative banks, and that are also known as the apex bank. Okay, the state cooperative banks are also known as apex bank because they mainly stay there in the capital of states. Now, the other three types of commercial bank is RRB, Regional Rural Bank, that has been established for the upliftment of rural economy. To more develop the rural economy, to uplift the rural economy, we have introduced the Regional Rural Bank. Then the Payment Bank and a Small Finance Bank has been introduced for the purpose of the financial inclusion by the Nachiket Moore comedian Usha Thorat committee. Okay, so these are the two banks which will be main introduced for the financial inclusion. And financial inclusion is simply a process to link each and every person with the financial product and services that should be at affordable cost. Like zero balance account is doing the financial inclusion because at affordable cost it is providing the banking services to the customer, right? Now the information is there for all of you that from 13th of January, the batch English medium and bilingual set 2.0 batch of the JIB is going to start. So in this particular batch, the PPB and Indian economy, Indian financial system, I will be starting from the 13th of January only. So do not forget to live classes, to join the live classes because that make your learning more interesting in the live classes. Apart from that, if you want, you can go with the JIB CIB Mahapack also. It provide all the things which is required to qualify the exam, the conceptual classes, the numerical classes, the revision classes, the case study classes, the MCQ batches, the e-books, the test series, everything will be available in the Mahapack. In the target batch, only and only conceptual classes will be there, but in Mahapack, everything will be there. To enroll, you can use the code Y496. 12 months validity is there. It will be covering JIB as well as CIB. Okay. Now, how to enroll? To enroll, you have to go to the Arrow 24/7 application. If you have not downloaded the application, then do it soon because it will be helping you out to get 1% additional discount. Okay. So you have to click on this particular product. You have to go to the application, find the JIB CIB section. If you want to go with the JIB target batch, just click here. Do read all the details. All these are the JIB target batches. So in whatever batch you want to enroll, you can click on that particular batch. And here this window will open for you. You can check all the details here, the timing of the class, the subjects, when the subjects are starting, the study plan, everything. Do read all the details and then click on the buy now. When you click on the buy now, the coupon code you have to enter is Y496 and click on the apply. When you apply, you will find these things like 77% off it is showing because 1% additional off is available in application. 6 months validity is there, will be covering all the four subjects of the JIB. Price will be your around 4300 something after the 1% additional discount, and the code will be Y496. So by applying this code, you can enroll in the JIB CIB target batch, the only JIB target batch. And apart from that, you can go with the JIB CIB Mahapack also, which I personally believe will be more beneficial for you because at the less prices, you are getting more benefits here. So it will be covering JIB all subjects, CIB compulsory all subjects, CIB elective all subjects. Everything will be available here. Do read all the details of the JIB CIB Mahapack. 1 year validity is going on here. And you have to click on buy now. 1 second. This is the JIB CIB Mahapack. You have to click here. And after reading all the details, you have to click on the buy now option. When you click on the buy now option, you will find the another window in which you have to enter a coupon code. Okay, 1 second. So click on the buy now. You will find this window. Click here Y496 and apply. When you apply, you will find here 77% discount is going on. 1% additional discount will be available here. And the validity will be 12 months. JIB, CIB both will be cover. Around 12,200 you have to pay to enroll in this particular product. The code will be Y496 and you will be free till you qualify the JIB, CIB exam, because after enrolling in the Mahapack, you don't have to enroll in anywhere else. It will be covering all the things required for JIB and CIB exam to be qualified. Okay. And as you know, the negative marking has been removed for this particular time. So it will be more beneficial us for preparing the exam and qualifying this exam. Clear? So this is the whole information for today. Let's end the session here. Last but not the least, if you still have any doubt in the types of bank, you can ask in the comment section. And if you have not subscribed the channel Office Hours 24/7, then do subscribe the channel and press the bell icon so that all the upcoming sessions notification will be given to you. Right, last but not the least, have a very good day. Do not forget to subscribe the channel. Thank you for joining the session and take care.